Hello folks, this is Pastor Mike Hoggard coming to you from Studio 2012 with another Watchman video broadcast. Mahmoud Ahmadinejad calls for a new world order. What is this, about the third time he does? Like every time he gets up and does a speech somewhere, we're going to have a new world order. New world order over here. Hey, can I get a new world order with this? See, every time he opens his mouth, he calls for a new world order. Here he is again in a recent, somebody sent me this, I'm going, I've seen that before. Recently, Iran's president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, has called for a new world order of justice-seeking nations to replace the existing Western-dominated liberal status quo. President Ahmadinejad made the remarks at the inauguration ceremony of the Second International Conference on Hollywoodism and Cinema in Tehran on Thursday. So he's calling, basically his idea of a new world order is, let's bring our Savior up from the bottomless pit where he is. Let's kill all the Jews and let's destroy the United States and let's take over the world for Allah. That's his version of a new world order. Now, he uses this phrase a lot, but the truth of it is, Ahmadinejad is a very, very dangerous man, especially the people that are behind him. Here is a more serious story than that. The Ayatollah, kill all Jews and annihilate Israel. The Iranian government, through a website proxy, has laid out the legal and religious justification for the destruction of Israel and the slaughter of its people. This is a story from WorldNet Daily. The doctrine includes wiping out Israeli assets and Jewish people worldwide, calling Israel a danger to Islam. The conservative website Aleph, with ties to Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, said the opportunity must not be lost to remove, quote, this corrupting material. It is a jurisprudential justification to kill all the Jews and annihilate Israel, and in that the Islamic government of Iran must take the helm. I'm telling you, this is an increasingly dangerous situation. Not for Israel, maybe for the United States, but it's a dangerous situation for Iran. And I'll tell you why. God made a promise. God made a promise that he intends to keep with the lineage of Abraham through Isaac, not Ishmael, and through Jacob. Genesis chapter 12. Now the Lord had said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house into a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. Now I'm going to stop right here because right now Israel is not that blessing. Why? Because they're not saved. But this covenant that God made with Abraham was unconditional. Abraham hadn't done anything here. In fact, his name wasn't even Abraham, it was Abram. Abram had done nothing to receive the blessings that God was giving him here, and yet God gave them. It's an unconditional, and I'll say an unbreakable promise. Don't listen to the conspiracy theorists who hate Israel. Don't listen to the replacement theologians. Don't listen to Tex Mars. Don't listen to white Caucasians who tell you we're the real Jews. We're real Israel because we're white, and so all you black people, Mexicans, and all you fake Jews, you can't even be saved. That's what they say. Don't listen to them. God made an unconditional promise to the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, I know that right now there's a lot of Zionist Jews out there that hate the Bible, they hate Christianity, they hate this and they hate that. And you can even see clearly in the book of Acts that the fiercest fighters of the gospel that Paul was trying to preach was the synagogues. It was the Jewish leaders. They hated the gospel of Jesus Christ and would stop at nothing to make that gospel go away. But it hasn't. And just because, in fact, it's the idea that God saves lost people to begin with, even when they're enemies. Paul used to be one of those. And Paul, when he was Saul, represented the ideology of Israel in that, let's kill all the Christians. We don't like them. Let's get rid of all the Gentile Christians. Let's persecute them. Let's wipe them out. And while Paul was on his way to kill all the Christians, that's when God saved him, because God keeps his promise. And so anyway, right now, Iran doesn't think the Jews are much of a blessing. They think they're a curse, and they want them annihilated. And so in verse 3, here's what God said. Here's what God said. I didn't say that. The Jews didn't say that. Here's what God said. I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee, and in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed. And I'm just telling you, okay, it's dangerous what's going to happen in this world. Not for Israel, but for Iran and for all the Middle Eastern nations that follow with them. And I'm afraid that at some point, the way the current government is going right now in the United States of America, we won't stand in line with Israel. We'll get in line with Iran. That would be bad. That would be very bad. God says in Zechariah chapter 2, verse 8, For thus saith the Lord of hosts, After the glory hath he sent me unto the nations which spoiled you. For he that toucheth you toucheth the apple of his eye. For behold, I will shake mine hand upon them, and they shall be a spoil to their servants, and ye shall know that the Lord of hosts has sent me. Psalm chapter 17, verse 8. Keep me as the apple of the eye. Hide me under the shadow of thy wings from the wicked that oppress me, from my deadly enemies who compass me about. They are enclosed in their own fat. With their mouth they speak proudly. They have now compassed us in our steps. They have set their eyes bowing down to the earth, like as a lion that is greedy of his prey, and as it were a young lion lurking in secret places. Arise, O Lord, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. And I'll say this, even if Iran, right now Iran is just, they're like Saul, they're breathing out threats and murders against Israel. But I can tell you that at some point it may turn violent, and they may attack Israel. And it may get really, really, really nasty over there. But I can tell you that at such a time, that's when God is going to truly save his people, and he's going to restore his blessing to them. You can count on it. That is, thus saith the Lord. Here's another article. It came out this week. UN wants world tax to help the poor. This comes from Infowars.com. The United Nations wants a world tax imposed on all financial transactions to fund a global model of social services that will provide, quote, needy people with a basic income, free health care, education, and housing. Now, we can see the day coming when the United Nations is going to impose a world tax on every instead of us just being taxed by our local governments. All of our hard-earned American money, the money that you and I earn, is going to go to the coffers of the United Nations. And I want you to think, let's think conspiracy for a minute. And we'll see the fallacy of it here in a little bit, because we're going to go to Scripture. The conspiracy of it is the global elite, the Illuminati, the New World Order people. They do want all the gold. They're greedy. I want you to, and think about this now. The Bible is right when it says, the King James Bible is right when it says the love of money is the root of all evil. Now, the NIV doesn't say it that way. It says it is a root of all evil. But the King James says it's the root of all evil. And I can tell you, why is it that only a few people want to control the world? They don't just want the world. They want all the gold and silver and all the money that goes with the world. And so this is like step one to getting it. And so, and they make it sound nice. They make it sound like we're just really trying to help poor people. I mean, look at all these starving children. If we taxed all of your income and took this money, why, we would be feeding these children. And isn't that a worthy cause? Wouldn't you like to help us out with that? Like, you know, make it sound real good. The truth of it is, as you well know, that anybody involved in like huge, large fundraising to help the needy, to help this, to help that, most of it doesn't go where it's supposed to go, does it? Okay? It goes in some rich guy's pocket. Now he's richer than he's ever been. That's how it is. That's the corruption of this world. If we think that the United Nations is so benevolent, it's kind of like the Vatican. The Vatican saying, really, there should be a world bank governing and monitoring all the banking systems of the world, and we want to help out in that because we're just soldiers for Jesus Christ, and we want to help poor people. Are you kidding me? These people are money grubbers. They're money hungry. Their God is mammon. It's money. That's who they... So on the back of the dollar bill it says, "In God we trust." That's not the God of the Bible they trust in. It's the God who is represented by money. That's who they trust. And this is a scam. Mark it down. It is a scam to tax the entire world, to take the wealth of this world and redistribute it, not necessarily to the poor people in Africa, but to the needy. The people, the greedy, needy. The people who actually want their money. Now, do I believe in helping poor people? Absolutely. And I think it's biblical to help poor people. I think it's biblical to take up offerings. Okay? We take up, I don't send out a bill in this church to the people in our church. I know some churches that do this. They send a bill. Yeah, according to your income statement, you owe this church $10,000. Pay up, buddy. Okay, or we'll take your name off the church roll. And you know what that means? According to that church, you can't go to heaven. Okay, it's a shakedown is what it is. But I don't send a bill out to the people of our church and say, you owe such and such. We just pass the plate around. People can give if they want to. It's a free will offering. And I believe in taking up offerings for the poor, for those who need it. We send Bibles to Africa. We do this, we do that. I believe in that. God actually has a method of taking care of poor people, and it's not government-run health welfare systems. Think about the amount of ways. Think about people that you know that are on a government disability program that can work. Think about it. Okay? The government welfare machine in this country is designed only to increase the power and the revenue sources of the federal government. It's not about helping people. It's a scam, and you and I know it. God has a better way. Okay? Listen to what God said. His method of, there are rich people who own the land. Okay? God had a way of helping, of allowing the rich to help the poor. Look at it. Leviticus 19:10. God said, "Thou shalt not glean thy vineyard, neither shalt thou gather every grape of thy vineyard. Thou shalt leave them for the poor and stranger. I am the Lord your God." You know what God said? When your guys go through the barley harvest, when they go through the vineyards, when they go out in the wheat fields, when they go gather up the corn, or whatever it is, they're to go through one time and leave some things on those vines. Leave some out there. Why? So that the poor could come in behind them and glean for themselves. You see, God has a way of helping poor people. Okay? Now, there are some people whose bodies will not allow them to do anything. Okay? And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people who have the ability to do for themselves. God says they should get up and do for themselves. And so God had a commandment to the rich. When you go through your field, don't take everything. Leave some behind. You'll have enough, okay? And you'll be rich and you'll be happy and you'll have all this stuff. But leave some behind. And then the poor can come in and follow you and gather for themselves. It was never a handout. This is evidence in the book of Ruth. The book of Ruth, chapter 2, verse 7. You remember Ruth? She went out into Boaz's field, and she said, "I pray you, let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves." She was just simply following according to the law. So she came and hath continued even from the morning until now, that she tarried a little in the house. And so Boaz had compassion on her. He didn't just say, "Here, take this grain." He said, "Let her come over to our field and follow behind you guys. You guys watch out for her and keep her safe. But she's going to go out there and gather, and she's going to glean for her and for Naomi." Boaz was doing right. He was following the law, and God actually has a better plan than any government in the world ever. Okay? Now, let's go back to this taxing the world thing. It's not really a bad thing if you think about it, because I can remember one other time when the world was taxed. Luke chapter 2, verse 1, "And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed." You remember what happened after Caesar Augustus taxed the entire world? We ended up with a savior out of it. So, I don't know. Maybe it's not a bad thing. A couple other articles here that really really got me. We send Katy Perry out to sing a song called I Kissed a Girl. Who's watching this? Is it 65-year-old women? No. Who's watching this? Is it 40-year-old women? No. It's 12, 13, probably sometimes 9 and 10-year-old girls who are watching Katy Perry brag about how she kissed a girl and she liked it. We have Lady Gaga strutting her stuff. Madonna, got some things to talk about Madonna. We have all these rock stars, all these TV stars, all these movie stars. We have the internet. We have the sexualization of children in this world, not just in this country, but it's all over the world. Children being exposed to things and seeing things that they should never, ever... God said they should not see it. Women are supposed to keep their bodies covered. Men are supposed to be likewise. They're not supposed to touch each other. I believe the Bible rules. You're not supposed to come together until you get married. But it seems like the devil is going in and taking away the innocence of these children. Listen to this story here. Girls, this is in England, I think. Girls 13 given contraceptive implants at school. The procedure was carried out in Southampton as part of a government initiative to drive down teen pregnancies. Girls as young as 13 years old at the public school being given contraceptive implants without the knowledge or consent of mom and dad. Now, you can't give a kid a Band-Aid or a pill at a school unless mom and daddy signs off on it. You can't administer health care to them unless mom and daddy agrees. Unless you're going to give them a contraceptive, or in the case of some cases in this country, Planned Parenthood suing for the right to go after girls in public schools and say, you need to have an abortion, you can't have this child. And mom and daddy doesn't have a right to know about it. The sexualization of our children is destroying. Kids are no longer innocent anymore. You want more proof? Here's another one. Students caught playing rape tag. This is from Minnesota. Parents in New Ulm, Minnesota, vented their frustration at a school district after an inappropriate playground game came to light. It is called rape tag. The game encourages children to tag private parts of others. Washington Elementary School administrators said almost 24 fifth graders played the game. Girls, 13 years old, at high risk of becoming pregnant. 13-year-old girls. And now we have fifth graders who are acting out by playing a game of tag by touching the private parts of one another, and parents are outraged. I'm one of these, I don't think the responsibility belongs solely in the public school system. I think the parents ought to be outraged a little at themselves. What do you let your kids watch on TV? What music do you let your kids listen? And you say, that doesn't have anything. Oh, yeah, it does. Oh, yeah, it does. Our children are inundated and flooded with these images at a younger and a younger age. And you give your child a laptop computer with a webcam and an internet connection and unrestricted access to the internet, both boys and girls, and everybody in the world knows what they're doing except the kid's parents. They think, oh, my kid doesn't do that. Really? Really? It's harming these innocents. Okay? So we're going after the kids. Let's kill them by abortion before they're ever born. And then if they're born, okay, let's inundate them with violence, video games, imagery that they shouldn't even know nor see what goes on in bedrooms at that young age. They should never be a part of that. And our children are being attacked everywhere. And there's a price to pay for it. Jesus loves the little children of the world. Matthew chapter 18, verse 6, but whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. I read another place in the Bible that sounds awfully familiar to that. It sort of indicates the spirit that is responsible for this kind of activity and this kind of behavior? It's a spirit of harlotry mentioned in the book of Hosea. What spirit is behind that? Well, she's called Isis. She's called Ishtar, Ashtaroth. She's called Diana. She's called Venus. She's called Aphrodite, which is where we get the word aphrodisiac from. She is visualized in the Roman Catholic Church as Madonna. She is referred to in the script, and I'll get to Madonna in a minute. She's referred to in the scriptures as Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots. You see, God told Ezekiel, He said, I'm going to give you a little proverb concerning Jerusalem and how she went out and played the harlot. He said, there's a little proverb that says, as the mother is, so are her daughters. Okay? And I will tell you, moms and dads, that this kind of stuff, this rape tag game playing at school, the reason why our 13-year-old girls need contraceptives at such a young age, okay, maybe, just maybe, it's what mama taught them at home. Okay? So not only those who offend these little ones, millstone around the neck, cast into the sea. Here's what God said about Babylon herself, Jeremiah 51, verse 63, and it shall be, when thou hast made an end of reading this book, that thou shalt bind a stone to it, and cast it into the midst of the Euphrates. And thou shalt say, thus shall Babylon sink, and shall not rise from the evil that I will bring upon her, and they shall be weary. Thus far are the words of Jeremiah. Mystery Babylon herself is going to be cast into the depths of the sea, never to rise again. Why? For harming the little ones, for harming the children. She's the one responsible for the abortion. She's bloodthirsty. She drinks the blood, just like she did that of innocent Abel in Genesis chapter 4. She's responsible for the abortion. She's responsible for kidnappings. She's responsible for child beatings and child molestation. She is responsible for the sexualization of children all across the world. Not only those who offend are going to be cast down, but that spirit herself is going to be cast down. And isn't it interesting that the very image of Madonna during the 46th, let me just stop right here. The number 46, I think, is interesting. It represents the chromosomes where our DNA is stored. This was a pagan ritual that she acted out. And somebody said it was 13 minutes long. I don't know. Maybe it was something like that. Okay? But this imagery here, I think, was very, very interesting. And there's no doubt of its pagan origins. Okay? And it's just interesting that the closing scene of Madonna's pagan ritualistic dance shows her falling down, going down into a pit. I think that's very, very, very interesting in light of some things that we know from the Scriptures and some things that we saw. Now, analyses, or I don't know how to say it, the analysis of Madonna's Super Bowl dance can be seen in various places all over the internet. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to regurgitate somebody else's material. I am going to show you a couple things that I particularly know about, have read about, have studied about, and you know me, we're going to go to the Scripture. We're going to see just how true these things. So, in case you haven't heard, Madonna, and I will show you one image here of Madonna and all the cast and all the choir and all the singers and all the dancers. And of course we have the all-seeing eye. That is the eye of Horus. That is the eye of Providence. It's the same thing on the back of the $1 bill. And so we look at that and we go, okay, I get it. Okay, anybody who has done anything with conspiracy theories or New World Order or looked at the back of a dollar bill and said, I think that's the devil, anybody who's done that can look at that and go, okay, that's pretty simple. I get that. Okay, there were some things that were very, very, very overt, and we look at it and we say, okay, we understand that this, there's something wrong here. Beyond that, there were some very, very subtle things, but some things that I think are interesting and revealing in the aspects of dance, sacred dance, music itself, and what Madonna was trying to represent. Now, again, I'm not going to try to break down every move that she made, as some people are doing. But I want us to look at some of the simple highlights. We mentioned earlier this spirit of harlotry, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. She has been represented by many names over the years, as Isis, as Venus, as Diana, usually in the essence of a fertility goddess. In other words, a goddess that worships or is worshipped in paganism by sexual practices or acting out. And when you watch dances like this, you're going, yeah, okay, I know what that represents. And I don't think it was an accident. I don't think that was an accident at all. I think it was either pre-planned or a spirit guidance plan. When one of Madonna's co-singers, some star named Mia or something like that, when she gives the finger to the camera for about 2 seconds. See, we all know what that means, don't we? Okay, it has sexual connotations. It it's a suggestive hand gesture, is what it is, and I think that falls right in line with the idea that this has everything to do with the spirit of whoredoms, the spirit of harlotry, the spirit of God's people turning their back on God and going a-whoring out after all the other nations. We're seeing this in churches. We're seeing this in religions all across the world. Turning their back on God and the Ten Commandments, the God that espoused himself to them, just like he did Israel. And now they're turning their back and they're going after all their lovers. This is what Madonna represents. She had a song, you remember, she was big back in the 80s. She had a song called Papa Don't Preach. In other words, Dad, don't give me your 10 Commandments. I'm going to live how I want to. And then the other song, like, you know what it is, okay? It's just embarrassing to have to talk about this stuff. The things that come out of her mouth. She was sexualizing young girls back 20, 30 years ago. And she's still doing it. So we see this idea. And by the way, Mystery Babylon, Madonna, she always brings forth a child, okay? Madonna and child. And she has the emblem of the sun god, you know, the halo over her head. A couple things that I saw was interesting here. Here is an image of Madonna being handed, it looks like a harp. It's actually a lyre or lyra, however you want to pronounce it. And I want you to just notice the symbolism here. Here we have a winged servant. So we know that this is spiritual. We know that there are spirits at work here. This would represent Orpheus. And let me stop right here. Orpheus is another one of these gods that just happens to be down there. Okay? He's down in a pit. He's down in the underworld. He's like the god of the underworld. Okay? So think of Revelation 13, a beast rising up out of the sea. Revelation 17, the beast rising up out of the bottomless pit. And by the way, that's sort of like a birthing idea. Okay, so here we have Mystery Babylon, and she always gives birth to the Antichrist. And so here we have a guy dressed up, you know, as this figure of Orpheus who is in the underworld. And that's a representation of the Antichrist who is going to rise up in the last days. Remember the phrase, annuit coeptus novus ordo seclorum. It means he favors the birth of a new world order. That's what it means. So here we have Orpheus handing Madonna, the goddess, okay, Mystery Babylon, a musical instrument. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 strings on it. Believe it or not, I counted that, and I went and I remembered reading this. Manly Hall's Secret Teachings of All Ages. He had several things to say about Orpheus and the little 7-string guitar that he was handing the goddess of fertility. Let's read what Manly Hall said. Orpheus has long been sung as the patron of music. I want you to think about an angel that knows music really well. Okay? On his 7-stringed lyra, he played such perfect harmonies that the gods themselves were moved to acclaim his power. When he touched the strings of his instruments, the birds and the beasts gathered about him, and as he wandered through the forest, his enchanting melodies caused even the ancient trees with mighty effort to draw their gnarled roots from out of the earth and follow him. Orpheus is one of the many immortals who have sacrificed themselves that mankind might have the wisdom of the gods. Think of Genesis chapter 3. By the symbolism of his music, he communicated the divine secrets. What is the divine secret? We'll talk about it. The divine secrets to humanity, and several authors have declared that the gods, though loving him, feared that he would overthrow their kingdom and therefore reluctantly encompassed his destruction. Now, I want you to think of, there's a reason why there are 7 strings on here. I want you to think of what is the divine secret. We've talked about that in many of our teachings. It's actually mentioned, Daniel chapter 2, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. Mankind, according to Genesis chapter 3 and the promise given to Eve in the Garden of Eden by the serpent, the idea that the wisdom of the gods was going to be passed down to men, just like the devil promised, and that men would become gods one of these days. Think about Mormonism, okay? Mitt Romney and all these other, Glenn Beck and all these others, okay? And so in all of the traditions and all the mystery cults, this number 7 represented the transcendence of man by some fashion from mortal to immortal. You remember the Masonic ladder that had 7 steps. That showed man's the ladder represents DNA. That showed man's transition from this world to the world of the gods, or man becoming God. The square and the compass. The square and the compass shows the fusion of the earthly realm and the heavenly realm, or their seed being mingled with the seed of men. And the letter G is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's the 7th letter of the alphabet. The letter G represents godhood, but it represents the number 7. That's what that is a reference to. Muslims have what's called the 7 heaven, or the 7 heavens. You remember a TV show called Seventh Heaven. It didn't have anything to do with Christianity. Okay? In the mystery cults, they had 7 planets. They were a representation of the 7 chakras of Kundalini. Stop right here. Kundalini. The base of your spine, you have a serpent coiled up. He's down in the depths, down in the lower parts. He's going to ascend up through your 7 layers, or your 7 chakras, and reach your pineal gland and immortalize you, turn you into a god. That's what yoga is all about, and that's how the serpent, the beast, ascends and rises up through the 7 chakras. According to the Bible, he's coming up out of the bottomless pit. Interesting to me that the exact phrase, bottomless pit, is mentioned exactly 7 times in the King James Bible. And Madame Blavatsky talked about the 7 rays. You see the 7 rays on the head of the Statue of Liberty. 7 days. The 7 spirits. The 7 spirits of Christ, the 7 spirits of God, are listed in Isaiah chapter 11. That's the 7 spirits of God. And whatever you see there in Isaiah 11, the exact opposite is like the spirit of Antichrist. Why? Because the beast, Revelation 13, Revelation 17, he has 7 heads. That's what this so-called divine number represents. And so here we have Ed Young. Remember him? Up on having a bed-in with his wife for 24 hours on top of their church in promotion of a new sermon series. A new sermon series where he's going to encourage everybody in his church to have intercourse for 7 nights in a row. And he said, when you do that, then, God's going to do something great in your marriage. You know what it is? It's basically a ritualistic fornication practice for 7 nights that's going to invoke the power of God in your life. Think about everything that we've seen so far. That's what that lyra represents. Listen to this now. It represents the power of music over a generation of people that will transform them one of these days. It's going to happen. You cannot say that music does not have any power in this world. Music is what is transforming this world right now. Okay? Manly Hall goes on to say that the lyra is the secret teaching of Orpheus. The 7 strings are the 7 divine truths, which are the keys to universal knowledge. There it is right there. Those 7 strings represent 7 layers, 7 chakras, the 7 heads of the beast, the practices of ritualistic fornication for 7 nights coming out of Ed Young and his church, and probably scores of other churches that are following in his footsteps. It's about creating an atmosphere and a world and an environment that will welcome and embrace this beast rising up out of the sea. And it's going to be done through the songwriters and the song singers like Madonna. It's going to be done through music. Okay? Let's go back to, since we've referenced Daniel chapter 2, and this image that Nebuchadnezzar saw, and the toes that represented the 2 kingdoms mingling themselves together like the square and the compass with the little G in the middle of it. Not too long after that, Nebuchadnezzar decided to go ahead and build this image. He thought, man, that was cool. I want to build it. So he built it. You remember it was 60 cubits tall, 6 cubits wide. It had these 6s all over it. Go read Genesis 6 and you'll understand what that's all about. But you remember he built this thing in the plain of Dura. Nebuchadnezzar the king made the image of gold whose height was 60 cubits and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. And then in verse 4, notice now they're going to have like a dedication ceremony. Okay, smash a glass of champagne over it and give it a name, like they do with ships. Okay, they're going to have a ceremony where everybody, I want you to get this now, everybody is going to fall. I've been telling you that all the New Testament doctrines have Old Testament pictures drawn of them. The Bible talks about in 2 Thessalonians 2, there's going to come a falling away first, and the man of sin is going to be revealed. And so here in the plain of Dura, Nebuchadnezzar puts up this image with 6s on it, and he wants everybody to fall. What is it that is the sign that they're all going to fall and bow to the image? Daniel chapter 3, verse 4. Then an herald cried aloud, to you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages. He's talking to everybody. That at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet. Let's count, shall we? That's number 1. The flute, number 2. The harp, number 3. The sackbut, number 4. The psaltery, number 5. The dulcimer, number 6. And all kinds of music, number 7. 7 different kinds of musical instruments, music. That's the 7 strings of the lyra. That's the number 7 in the square and the compass. I mean, that's the 7 chakras. That's everything. Music is going to bring it about. When they hear these 7 things of music, that ye fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king has set up. And whoso falleth not down and worshipeth shall the same hour be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And I say, bring it on. I'm like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Okay, and I like this now because the Bible just makes things so clear for us. Okay, there's going to be known the difference in the last days of who is on God's side and who is not. You see, we can't look at somebody walking down the street and going, oh, I think they're a Christian. We can't do that. But at some point it's going to be known who is on God's side and who isn't. You know why? Those who are on God's side won't fall. They'll be standing. So you just think about it. You look out on the plain of Dura, hear the 7 sounds come out, and everybody falls. It's not hard to notice 3 guys standing up in the midst of everybody else who's fallen. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego standing there like this. They're not bowing down. And they told Nebuchadnezzar, I like this, just a little bit of attitude. Nebuchadnezzar, we believe our God will save us, but if he doesn't, we're still not bowing down to your image. I don't care what you do to us. So they heated the fiery furnace 7 times, hotter than it had ever been. And God, the Son of God, showed up and saved his people. I'm telling you, it just doesn't benefit us to fall down before the devil. There's just no benefit in it whatsoever. Keep standing for the Lord. Speaking of music, who is it? I've told you to think of an angel now, Orpheus. Think of an angel that knows music. Not only does he know it, he is it. Ezekiel chapter 28 gives us the physical description of the fallen angel Lucifer. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, topaz, diamond, beryl, onyx, jasper, sapphire, emerald, carbuncle, gold. There's 10 things here, by the way. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou wast created. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. And so here we see clearly Lucifer, he not only knew what a tabret and a pipe was, he had them built in. The pipes represent sound music like harmony and melody, things that, have a sustaining sound. Tabrets represent percussion, both elements being used now in rock and roll music. The beat, the rhythm. You listen to a Lady Gaga song, it's all about the rhythms and the beat. And I'll admit, you listen to some Lady Gaga songs and you're going, hey, kind of a catchy tune. My flesh goes, hey, I can get into this. My spirit says, she's wicked, she's Mystery Babylon the Great, and so is Madonna. Okay? Madonna didn't come out there singing, oh, solo mio. She didn't come out there singing that. She was singing rock and roll, her rock and roll. Okay? She comes out dressed like an owl. Then look at it. Okay? Why an owl? Okay, here's Madonna. Here's a picture of the owl that she looks like. Those of you who have been studying prophecy and studying conspiracy theories know about the Bohemian Club, the Bohemian Grove. They have a big, according to reports, according to the video, and I think it's legit, they have a great big gigantic carving of an owl that they, have this little ceremony around. Nobody takes it seriously. I'll be honest with you, if someone invites me someplace and there's a ceremony involving a statue of an owl, I'm not going. Okay? I don't care if they don't take it seriously or not. I'm not going. Because I know what spirit that owl represents. Even the one that's in Washington, D.C., carved into the very street layout of the nation's capital. There it is right there. You remember the movie The Fourth Kind? This is really what got me going. I'm watching this movie called The Fourth Kind. It's like alien visitation on steroids, okay, is what it is. The Fourth Kind was all about not only aliens coming knocking on your door and saying, hi, take us to your leader. It's about them actually coming in and possessing people's bodies. And the predominant symbol throughout this entire movie was that of these owls. Where did they get that from? Job chapter 30. Owls are spirits. Owls are spirits. Okay, no, not the barn owl that, kills all the mice in the morning. They are an earthly representation of spiritual beings that have the resemblance of owls. Job chapter 30, verse 29, I am a brother to dragons. Think about that. And a companion to owls. Owls and dragons, they always go together in the Bible. When you see an habitation of dragons, the owls are going to move in. These are spirits, okay? Isaiah 13, and Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees, excellency, here's Babylon again, shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. It shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation, neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. In other words, the absence of churches or godly churches. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures, and owls shall dwell there, and satyrs, that's another spirit, by the way, shall do what there? The word is dance. Think of the satyrs dancing upon the stage at the 13-minute Super Bowl 46 halftime show. Satyrs shall dance there, and the wild beasts of the island shall cry in their desolate houses. And dragons, see, where the dragons are, the owls are, in their pleasant palaces, and her time is near to come, and her days shall not be prolonged. See, these owls and these dragons and these doleful creatures and these satyrs, they always show up in a place that's not inhabited anymore, not inhabited by the man. You know who the man is in the Bible? Pilate said who it was. Jesus walked in, he said, behold, the man. Okay? These creatures always show up in the absence of the presence of the man. In a place, we'll see the word here in a little bit, and I'll show you what I mean. Jeremiah chapter 50, therefore the wild beasts of the desert and with the wild beasts of the island shall dwell there, and the owls shall dwell therein. It shall be no more inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. As God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, saith the Lord, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. Behold, a people shall come from the north, and a great nation, and many kings shall be raised up from the coast of the earth. That northern kingdom is talked about all through the scriptures. That north is the spiritual realm. Okay, that terrible northern kingdom is the invasion of fallen angels in the last days, represented by the owls. The owls show up because there's no man there. Okay, Micah chapter 1 verse 8, therefore I will wail and howl. I will go stripped and naked. That does sound like a rock concert. And I will make a wailing like dragons and mourning as the owls. For her wound is incurable, for it is come unto Judah. He is come unto the gate of my people, even to Jerusalem. You see, God sends the owls in, like Madonna, as a sign to people that your wound is incurable. And you know what God's saying? I can't heal you. You're going to die. Leviticus chapter 26, I will also send wild beasts among you, which shall rob you of your children and destroy your cattle and make you few in number, and your highways shall be desolate. I want you to think about desolation. And if you will not be reformed by me by these things, but will walk contrary unto me, then will I also walk contrary unto you, and will punish you yet 7 times for your sins. And see, it just all connects together. The owls coming in, and the 7-string harp, and the 7 heads of the beast. It's all just kind of connects together when you just follow the scriptures. I want you to think of desolation. Proverbs 1:27, when your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh upon you, then shall they call upon ye, but I will not answer. Then shall ye seek me early, but they shall not find me. For they that hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord, they would none of my counsel, they would despise all my reproof. Therefore shall they eat the fruit. Think of the Garden of Eden. They shall eat the fruit of their own way and be filled with their own devices. God is promising that these owls are a sign. They're a sign that the man is no longer present, and God is going to bring desolation to the earth and to the land. Clearly, we can see with the onslaught of wicked rock and roll music, wicked country music, wicked forms of entertainment, movies, television, internet, things like that, that God is soon to bring desolation to this land. And it was all acted out. It was all acted out. In fact, that number 46, I want you to write this down. The phrase, the devil, is mentioned exactly 46 times in the King James Bible. The 46th occurrence, it says, the devil is cast into the lake of fire. You know what the lake of fire is? The second death. Okay? I see something going on here. Okay? This is a prophecy. This is a sign to people who are just going, oh, that was, man, Madonna rocks. Okay? This is a sign. And people don't get it. But America, your desolation is coming. Mark it down. Your death and your desolation is coming. Proverbs chapter 3. Be not afraid of sudden fear, neither of the desolation of the wicked when it cometh. For the Lord shall be thy confidence, and shall keep thy foot from being taken. Jeremiah chapter 4, verse 7. The lion has come up from his thicket, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. Think of the destroyer. Is on his way. He is gone forth from his place to make thy land desolate, and thy cities shall be laid waste without an inhabitant. And then Matthew chapter 24. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of Look at that word, desolation. Spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand. You see, along with the Madonnas of this world and the Lady Gagas and the people flipping people off and all that, along with all this evil that's going on in the world, there's going to be some people yet preaching the gospel. They will still be preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. And even though desolation is surely coming, and the signs of it are not just in a rock and roll show at the Super Bowl. The signs of it are everywhere. There's desolation in our churches. There's desolation in the American home. There's desolation all in our society right now, and our wound in America is incurable. All you have to do is look at the youth of our country, the college age, the high school, the children. And you can see that in America, our wound is incurable. The next presidential election is not going to do anything to change the moral fabric of this country. It's going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. And so the music is going to play, and the falling away is going to take place. Who's going to stand for God in the last days? This is Pastor Mike. I want you to think about it. Think about what's coming. Think about your stand. As we are watchmen on the wall, let's stand, let's blow the trumpet, because when all this is happening, this is now our opportunity to preach the gospel. This is Pastor Mike. I love you. Stand with me as we stand in these last days. God bless you. Bye-bye.